Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth presentation out of the 12 lessons. Today we'll be talking about fatherhood and how it is such an important role, and we'll be discussing the key principles and practices that come with fatherhood. And I have to warn you, forgive me if I start ranting about my daddy because I really do love him. I'll try to keep it on a little. But to begin, I want to ask a few questions. What does it mean to be a father? And what does this calling and responsibility entail? I think there are several answers to those questions. But if I were to answer those questions, I would mention this quote by Howard W. Hunter. And he said, "The teaching and governance of the family must not be left to a man's wife alone, to society, to school, or even church. To father a child is more than a biological act or fulfillment of a social role. To father a child is to accept a divine calling, a moral stewardship, and a lasting commitment across generations." So there is so much more to fatherhood than what we think, even what society thinks of. If you were to describe the perspectives that society has on fatherhood, what would you say? And this quote that I'm about to read is from a great talk by Elder Toddy Christofferson called Fathers. And you probably should read his talk or watch his talk than this presentation because he practically outlines everything that's in this presentation. And he's just much better at it than I. He's had more practice. But anyway, he mentioned this quote from a man called David Blackenhorn, and this is what he said about society's perspective on fathering or fatherhood. He said, "Today American society is fundamentally divided and ambivalent about the fatherhood idea. Some people do not even remember it. Others are offended by it. Others, including more than a few family scholars, neglect it or even disdain it. Many others are not especially opposed to it, nor are they especially committed to it. Many people wish we could act on it, but believe that our society simply no longer can or will." And that is really sad. I think that definitely sums it up how society feels about fathers and fatherhood. I think many of our problems stem from broken homes and unstructured homes because they don't have, a mother and a father, especially a father that helps teach them values of what it means to contribute to society and what type of person we should be. And so even if people did believe that, I don't think they really would believe other people would act on that as well. So it's really sad. And thankfully, we, as members of the church, have a different mindset on what fatherhood is, and not even a mindset really, but a belief. And we know that fatherhood involves two things. The first one is that parenting is a work of vital, even of internal importance to children, families, and communities, and that fathers can make a fundamental difference in parenting across generations. So that is vastly different from how society feels on fatherhood. We know that fatherhood is a very important work, an eternal work, even a generative work, which means that our lasting influence as fathers crosses generations. How we teach our children is how they're going to teach their children. We often hear the phrase in the scriptures, traditions of their fathers, and that's really true because whatever our examples or behaviors or our choices that we make really influence children to teach their children those same things. And there are definitely some principles and practices that are not just sacred and secular, but are keys to success in fatherhood. And there are 5 principles that I would like to talk about. And those are 1, to preside, to partner, to be present, to provide, and to protect. And so we're definitely going to go through each of these individually. So the first principle is to preside. And the Family Proclamation says, "By divine design, fathers are to preside over their families in love and righteousness." And they can do that in 3 different ways. And the first one is to have spiritual leadership. Fathers are really directed to take upon themselves the responsibility of spiritual leadership in the family. And a couple presentations ago, we talked about one of the first instructions that the Lord gave Adam was to be a spiritual leader and teach his children in the things of this, in spiritual things. And the second, I guess, principle under this principle, I'm going to say principles a lot, or practice, I should say, is that they need to be presiding over their family. That is definitely the first and foremost important duty that they have as fathers, and it should not be, I guess, taken over by other obligations that they have, because their first obligation is to preside over their family. And the third way that they can preside over their families is to lead in love and righteousness. And as I think about that, when fathers are leading in love and righteousness, they definitely are setting the example of their children to follow them. And I know that my dad, he has always been so faithful in his callings and attending church that really helped me, convert to the gospel and develop my own testimony of what I know to be true. And I really attribute that to the example that my father showed me. So those are the three ways that they can preside over their families. But I love this quote by Erickson. He said that parenthood is, for the most, the first and for many, the prime generative encounter. So we know that fathers, from the moment that the children are born, they have a lasting influence. And that's what he means by generative encounter, is that parents bless their children from birth and onward. So can you think of any examples how fathers do this, or how your father has presided in your home and blessed you from the time you're little to now? I know my dad, like I said, he has definitely blessed me with his example of attending church. He also has blessed me by loving my mother and showing me what a marriage should look like. And I'm so grateful for my daddy. See, I'm about to rant about my daddy. I don't care how old I am or how old I will ever be, but I will always refer to my dad as my daddy, because he is my daddy and I love him so much. But he really has blessed me in so many ways. The second principle is to partner. And when you become a parent, you really enter a community of relationships, and you partner yourself with those people. And the first and foremost, obviously, is you need to partner with your spouse, then your child, and then the other relations that come with your children. So that could be, neighbors, teachers, church friends, extended family, and that really, and these relationships are really crucial in helping your children develop successfully and healthy. So in the family proclamation we read a couple weeks ago, or a couple lessons ago, it said that in these sacred responsibilities, fathers and mothers are obligated to help one another as equal partners. And remember, we're not placing ourselves one above the other or one in front or behind the other. We really are equal partners, and we need to honor that role in that relationship. And it really does make a difference when we are partnering with our spouse. And I loved how one man put it. He said that the quality of the relationship with the child's mother is the secret ingredient for the relationship with their children. And that is true. I know, again, in another presentation I mentioned a talk that was given by Sister Dalton, who said the best thing that you can do for your daughter is to love her mother. And that is really true. Like I said, my dad has showed me how he loves my mother, and that really motivated me to find someone who honored their priesthood and would honor me. And I definitely found that in my husband. He is so good to me. But I really also attribute that to how my dad loved my mother. And to continue, we need to partner with our children. We're fathers, even mothers. This applies to mothers too, but definitely fathers. That we need to partner with the child. And we have to realize that if there's a reciprocal relationship, it's a two-way relationship. I think there's a danger in thinking that all of the influence flows from the father to the child, because children really come into this life with their own personalities, their own temperaments and preferences. And so in order to work with our children, we should not neglect who they are and what they like and don't like. And that obviously is going to change as they grow and develop. And so it really is a continuing influence from the time that they're born until they mature and become their own individual. And maintaining that is very crucial and very pivotal for them in order to develop healthy relationships and to discover who they are. And the third way we can partner is partnering with others. And that's really a very vast system of relationships. Like I mentioned, it could be extended family, it could be teachers, neighbors, friends, and it's really important to be involved with your child that way. And I know that if I had men right here, I'd be asking them in class how community relationships help them in their parenting duties. Because I think I have a hard time believing that men would say, I feel companionship when I go to church and I talk with other fathers. Because men, they're not very honest with their feelings. But I wonder if they would be willing to honestly say that they feel that companionship and assistance and insight when they're attending, let's say, church meetings with other dads or whatnot. So I know that they do feel that companionship. I just want to hear it from their own mouth. The fourth principle is to be present. And what does it mean to be present for someone? And when I think about that, a lot of things go through my head, but I thought about the feeling of being homesick. And I was terrible when I was little. I was homesick all the time. I couldn't even walk across the lawn to my next door neighbor's house to spend the night. I just was so homesick. I didn't I didn't want to stay the night for some reason. And it wasn't because I missed my bed or my couch or my toys. It wasn't that. It was really something else. And I was longing for the company of my family, really. And so the longing for home is really a universal aspect of human psychology. And it's a longing for the presence of family members who provide that security and love that you're missing at that moment in time. So I really was missing that connection and that companionship. And to be a father, this fundamental principle to be present really meets that need. And it really does require both quantity and quality of time with your children, so they don't feel homesick all the time or have that feeling that need that they're missing something. And we can do that in 3 dimensions. And that means that we can be there physically, we can actually be there present, or we can be present by being aware. And what I mean by that is, let's say a child comes up to you and asks you an involved question and wants your attention. That means, turning off the TV or setting a book down and actually engaging with them in that conversation. And what's really cool is that I know I actually have friends who are in the military and are deployed, and even though that they're not there physically, they still have a lot of influence over their children by being aware of them and continuing to keep in contact with them. It still makes a really big difference. So it's not really, really necessary to be present, but it really, really helps to be there and present in different ways, because everybody's situation is different. And the third way is to give care. So meet their needs, meet their temporal needs, their spiritual needs, their emotional needs, just their practical needs. And we have to keep in mind that these dimensions change over time as children develop and grow. And so maybe for your 3-year-old or your toddler, being present is definitely different compared to your teenager. To your toddler, to be present means to give piggyback rides or to read them a story or playfully wrestle with them when you get home from work. And maybe to a teenager, to be present means to offer words of encouragement or words of affirmation when they're experiencing doubt. Anything that provides them that security, because that's really what the greatest need that children are looking for. And then the last one is to provide. The last principle is to provide. And what does that really mean? And there are several answers to this question, but I kind of summed it up in that a father has to meet their children's temporal needs while creating opportunities for them to grow and develop. And that can be in 3 different ways. The first 2, the financial and resource capital, really involves the father's efforts to generate that money and that material resource for them to grow and develop. So that's definitely kind of like a monetary thing. And then human capital basically refers to the father's efforts to contribute their time and energy in helping their children develop the skills and knowledge that they need for their life. So it's investing that time and developing that relationship with your child. Oh, I guess I was wrong. That was the 4th principle. Now this is the 5th principle, which is the last principle. What does it mean to protect? Now there could be a lot of answers to this question as well, but I summed it up in 3 different ways, the 3 M's, the 3 M&Ms. Excuse me, I don't know where this cough is coming from, but what does it mean to protect? It means to have a sense of responsibility and actively work to ensure that children avoid risks or personal harm by modeling positive behaviors, mentoring children and personal abilities, and monitoring their behaviors and environments. So you think about it, modeling really is the most powerful teaching method. What example are you setting for your children? I know that my father's example has really helped me choose what things I want to do or what things I have in my life. Maybe, for example, the word of wisdom. My dad never smoked, so I really never had a desire to smoke. Or to drink or anything like that. So modeling, if you're really modeling righteous examples, your children might not have the incentive to choose those things which would harm them. So modeling is a really powerful teaching method. Mentoring is also crucial for the child's development and helps protect them as well. Mentoring really involves teaching skills and knowledge in a tutoring relationship that really leads to them growing and developing. And that can be kind of a 2-edged sword because it really encourages children to explore and push their boundaries. And one example I can think of is swimming. You want your child to learn how to swim, but it could be dangerous because what if they swallow water, choke on water, or something like that. So it kind of can be scary. Or teaching your child how to ride a bike. They might fall and scratch their knee or break an arm or something. So it might be scary, but it's definitely worthwhile because it leads them to experiencing some type of personal development. And the 3rd one is monitoring. Monitoring your child from negative influences. And even if your child thinks you're being invasive or nosy or annoying, they will thank you later on. And monitoring really just means being involved. What are your child's friends like? What movies or music are they listening to or watching or whatever it may be? And that can help them from being influenced in a negative way. And so these 3 are really important. And maybe you can think of other examples like the ones that I mentioned. But to close, I want to end with this video. I absolutely love this video. I think it perfectly summarizes what a father means and who our Heavenly Father is like. And so I'm going to close with this video. So It's only a few minutes long, and I really encourage you to stay in to watch it. And I also encourage you to stay tuned for the next coming presentation or lesson. And hopefully you've learned a few things about what it means to be a father and the importance of what it means to be a father. So I will see you guys soon, but enjoy the video.